Yeah.
Here anymore.
Sometimes. Did you get all
Buenos dias.
Good morning. Hafiz says the great religions are the great religions are ships.
Get to the microphone.
The poets and the storytellers are the lifeboats. Every sane person I know has jumped overboard. This is good for business, isn't it, Hafiz? Okay. So it's fallen upon me to introduce Garth, and I just want to say a couple of words that I said yesterday, but I'll say them for the camera today. We are so fortunate over these years to have had Hari, and in the last few years to have Garth join us as a second world-class storyteller. We are so privileged to have these guys with us. And I'll say this for the camera, even though I said it yesterday. In parts of the Pacific Northwest, if you don't encourage the storyteller, you will go home with a hunchback.
Story, 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 story.
Hey. All right. All right. All right. We are so fortunate to have these stories that hold so much hidden wisdom in them. The stories have been passed down for generations and generations and generations. This is a Grimm's tale. The brothers Grimm traveled all over the larger part of the Germanic Empire, going to little villages and hearing stories from simple people and recorded them. And there's so much wisdom because what the gold, the jewels in the story is what remains, and the chaff blows away in the wind. And those jewels stay generation after generation. The story gets more and more refined. So this is a story that I learned about 25 years ago, heard about 25 years ago, and it's worked me all this time. And I want to share it with you. And this is an answer to Hari's question yesterday. What more than courage do we need? There's some unexpected answers in this story. So, a long time ago, in the time when a kingdom was simply the area of land that a local king or chieftain could control, there was constant squabbling and ambition and battles, and so the borders were always shifting. So please don't get confused in this story by all the kings that are in it. There's lots of kings in this story. So don't get confused by that. They all belong. They all have their place. So there was once a king who had a garden below his palace. And the king loved to look down from his towers and his balconies onto his beautiful garden. In the midst of the garden was a tree, a wondrous tree, a tree who bore apples of pure gold. And as the apples ripened, they were carefully counted each day to be sure that none went missing. But one morning it was found that the count was one less than it had been the day before. And when the news came to the king, he scowled and he grew red in the face and he bellowed, "A watch must be kept every night." The king had 3 sons. And of course it was to the eldest son that this task fell. And the king commanded him to go and keep watch, to keep alert, and to catch whoever it was that was stealing the apples. The eldest son was quite confident. He said, "Of course, father, of course." And so he went to the garden as dusk was coming on, and he lay down under the tree, and he was determined not to go to sleep. But as the hours passed, and the evening fell, and the light faded, and the stars came out, and the darkness grew deeper, just before midnight, his drowsiness overcame him, and he fell fast asleep. And of course, in the morning, it was discovered that yet another golden apple was missing. And when the king heard the news, he roared through the entire castle, "I cannot trust my eldest son!" It echoed through the halls. And now he directed his second son to go to the garden and keep watch. And the second son was doubly determined and sat down under the tree, absolutely sure that he would be able to fulfill his father's wishes. But as the evening came on and the light faded and the darkness grew deeper, the drowsiness came over him. And just before midnight, he fell fast asleep. And in the morning, it was discovered that yet another golden apple was gone. Well, I needn't tell you how the king responded. Now the third son, the youngest son, knew that the task, of course, would fall to him. And he was very excited. But the king didn't hold much with the youngest son. The youngest son was not only young, he was slight, he was a bit loopy, and so that he didn't even bother to ask him. But the boy was very eager, said, Father, please, let me try, at least let me try. I can do it, I really can. I won't let you down, please, let me try. Father, come on, Father, let me try. And he badgered him and pestered him and badgered him some more. And the king couldn't just cast him off because he was his own son. And so, just for the sake of peace, he agreed. So the youngest son went to the garden, determined to stay awake. And so he lay down under the trees on the soft leaves, and he listened to the breeze in the branches. And he watched as the first stars began to twinkle through the leaves, and he kept a sharp eye, and he kept a keen ear. And all through the evening and into the night, he listened and listened. And just before midnight, he heard a rustling up in the air, and he looked up. And he saw a glint of gold. It was from the moon rays, from the moon that had just risen. It was a bird fluttering in the air. And quickly he drew his bow. But before he could shoot, the bird plunged into the tree and with his talons grasped an apple and fluttered away. And he let the arrow fly, shoo, and the arrow struck the bird, but just barely. And a single feather came floating down through the air. And the bird flew away. And the bird flew away. And the prince rushed and grasped the feather before it fell to the ground, and he held it in his hand. Oh, it was made of pure gold. It was so finely made, so delicate. He could barely believe his eyes. All through the night he grasped it in his hand. And in the morning he rose and he rushed to the king. He said, Father, look. And the king took the feather. And he was astonished as well. And he called his counselors, and they each came in turn and looked, and each of them said, this feather, this one feather, is worth nearly as much as the entire kingdom. And the king said, if the feather is worth so much, can you imagine the value of the bird? I must have that bird. And so he commanded his oldest son to venture forth into the world and find the bird. And don't come back without it. And come back as soon as you can. And the eldest son said, of course, Father, of course, I'll be able to find the bird right away. I'll be right back. It shouldn't be more than a matter of days. You can count on me. He was very eager to restore his good name not only before the king, but before the entire palace. And so he set off. He set off, venturing off into the world. And the eldest son had not gone far when he came to the edge of a forest. And as he walked toward the forest, he noticed sitting by the side of the road a fox. And instantly he drew his bow, drew an arrow and notched it. But the fox shouted out, "Prince, Prince, spare my life, and if you do, in reward I will give you some good advice." The prince was rather surprised. And taking advantage of his hesitation, the fox continued and said, "You were seeking the golden bird, and you are on the road to find it. You will come down this road to a village. There will be 2 inns on either side of the road. One will be merry with light and merriment, and the other will be poor and humble. But turn away from the merry inn and go into the humble inn. Don't enter that place. Heed my words." "What ridiculous advice," said the prince. "And what does a fox know of inns anyway?" Shoo! And he loosed the arrow. And the arrow sped between the fox's ears, but he was unharmed, and with his tail in the air he ran into the forest. And the eldest prince continued on his way, trudging along the road. And it was a long road, and it was late into the evening before he reached that village, tired and dusty and sweaty. And there were the 2 inns, just as the fox had said. And one was merry with light streaming out of the windows, the sound of music and revelry. And then he turned and looked at the other inn. It was just humble and very poor looking. He said, "I would be a fool to stay in that humble inn when this inn is so bright and merry." And he marched up the stairs into the lit inn, and there he stayed the night. When he awoke in the morning, he decided not to go on his way, but to stay another day at the inn and another night, for he quite liked this place. And he did. And the next day it was the same. And the next day it was the same. And the days and the weeks and the months went by, until he'd completely forgotten about his father, about the golden bird, and about any semblance of good behavior. Back in the castle, the king was growing more and more worried, and also more and more eager for the golden bird. And so he said to his second son, "You must go out, venture into the world, and find the golden bird and bring it back forthwith." So the second son set out. He too came to the forest. He too saw the fox at the side of the road. He too drew his bow, and the fox called out likewise, "Prince, Prince, spare my life, and I will give you good advice." And the fox gave the same advice to the second prince. And the second prince scoffed the fox in the same way. Shoo! Let the arrow fly. The arrow flew between the fox's ears, not harming him, and the fox ran off into the forest with his tail in the air. This second prince trudged down the road and likewise came to the village, where he saw the 2 inns, the poor inn and the merry inn. And there on the porch of the merry inn, leaning against the door and looking very happy and rather soused, was his older brother. And when his older brother saw him, he said, "Come on in, come on in." And of course he did, and he too stayed not just that night, but the next night and the next and the next, until he too had forgotten all about his father, about the golden bird, and about any semblance of good behavior. Back at the castle, the king was worried that he'd lost his second son as well. He may never see either one of them. And so of course the youngest son knew now that it was his turn. He said, "Father, let me go." As I said, the father didn't hold much for the youngest son. But he pestered him and badgered him until finally the father, just for the sake of peace, said, "All right, go try what you will." But he was afraid that he would lose not only his older 2 sons, but his youngest son as well. But he wanted that golden bird. And so off the youngest son went. And he too came to the edge of the forest, and he too saw the fox, and he too drew his bow, and the fox called out, "Prince, Prince, spare my life, and I will give you some good advice." And the prince dropped his bow and said, "My friend, fear not, I will not do you any harm." And the fox said, "Good prince, you will never repent of your good nature." Remember that line. And so the fox said the same thing to the youngest prince that he'd said to the first two. "You'll come to a village with 2 inns. Don't go into the merry inn, go into the humble inn." And then the fox said, "Well, so that you can get there a little faster, sit down here on my tail." And he put his fluffy, furry red tail on the ground. And no sooner had the prince sat himself upon the tail than shoo, off the fox went, over hill and dale, so fast that the wind whistled through their hair. And they came to the village, and there were the 2 inns. And the prince dismounted, and he did as the fox said, and went into the humble inn. And he spent the night, and he rested well. And when he came out in the morning, he'd not gone far, when who did he find sitting beside the road but the fox? And the fox said, "You are on the road to the Golden Bird. It is some distance ahead. You'll come to a castle. And there before the castle lays an entire army of soldiers, fast asleep. But have no fear. Pick your way between them. Find your way into the castle. Search inside, and you will find a chamber. And inside the chamber will be a cage. And inside the cage, you will find the Golden Bird. Then come out with it quickly, and we shall go back to the palace and your father with the Golden Bird." And the prince nodded his head and said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And the fox said, "So that you may travel there more quickly, sit down here upon my tail." And no sooner did he sat upon the tail when shoo, off they went as fast as the wind, with the hair streaming in the air. And they came to the castle, and there was the army fast asleep upon the ground, snoring loudly. And the prince picked his way between them and made his way into the castle, his heart beating fast, his breath catching in his throat. But there was no one about, no one about. It was empty. And he went down one hallway and down another, and at last he came to a chamber in which sat a cage, a wooden cage. And he walked in, and inside the cage was the Golden Bird. And then he noticed around the floor were golden apples. And I forgot to tell you another piece of advice that the fox gave him. The fox said, "Come out with the cage, but ignore the golden cage that is sitting in that same room. Heed my words, or things will go badly for you." And so he lifted up the wooden cage, and he was making his way towards the door when his eyes fell upon the golden cage on the floor. And he thought to himself, "What a wondrous bird! What a wondrous bird! How can I bring this bird back to my father in such a shambly old wooden cage? Look at that golden cage. Surely the bird deserves the golden cage, as does my father." And so he put the cage down, and he opened it up, and he pulled the bird out. The bird was quiet, but when he opened the golden cage and put it inside, it began to shriek and squawk and flap its wings. It made a tremendous amount of noise, such that all the soldiers in the courtyard were awakened, and they rushed in, they put him in chains, and brought him before the judge, who condemned him to death. The soldiers were getting ready for the execution when the king of the place, who had also just woken up, came forth, and he said, "There's one way you can save your life. You must bring me the golden horse. The golden horse who can run faster than the wind. The horse I have been desiring for a very long time. Find me the golden horse and bring it back, and you shall have your life. And I will give you the golden bird as a reward." And so, of course, the youngest prince was very happy to have his life. But he had no idea where the golden horse was to be found. And so he walked along the road with his head down, sighing to himself at his bad fortune, and that he had let his new friend, the fox, down. All would have gone well if he just remembered his words. And he was walking along the road when who did he see up ahead, sitting and waiting for him but the fox? And the fox said, "Now you see what kind of trouble and mischief you've gotten yourself into by not following my advice. But I have compassion for you. I know where the golden horse is. Would you like to hear?" And you can imagine the prince said, "Yes, yes, of course, of course." The golden horse is in the stables of the mountain king. His castle is high in the mountains, a long way from here. It will take you many days to reach there. When you arrive, find the stables and go to the stable in front of which is lying the stable boy asleep. Pick your way past him and go in, and you will find the golden horse. But put onto the golden horse the saddle of wood and leather, and ignore the golden saddle that sits beside it. And heed my words, or things will go badly for you. And so that you may travel a little more quickly, sit down here upon my tail. And he sat down, and no sooner did he sat down than whoosh, they were off, with the wind whistling through their hairs. And by evening time they'd arrived, through long roads, winding through the forests and up to the crags of the mountains. The views and the vistas got grander and grander, higher and higher. And at last they came to a magnificent castle built on these craggy mountains. And there beside the castle were stone stables. And the fox said, "Go in, you know what to do." And the boy made his way to the stables, and he wandered along them until he came to, indeed, a stable boy asleep before the stall. And he looked over the door of the stall, and there was the golden horse, a magnificent creature. Golden hair, golden mane, golden tail, golden forelock, golden whiskers. It was a magnificent creature. And he made his way into the stall, and he saw the leather and rope, the leather and wooden saddle, and he pulled it off the wall, and he was about to put it onto the horse when his eyes caught sight of the golden saddle. He said, "Such a magnificent creature. What a terrible thing it would be to disgrace it with this awful old shabby saddle. Surely it deserves the golden saddle." So he put the wooden saddle down, he took the golden saddle, he put it on the horse. No sooner did it touch the horse's back than it began to neigh and shriek and scream and rear up on the air and paw the air with its... And he made so much noise that the stable boy woke, and the stable boy went and woke the grooms, and the grooms called the soldiers, and the soldiers rushed in, and they put the youngest prince in chains. And they took him before the king, and the king said, "Your life is forfeit for your crime." And the boy said, "But your highness, is there no way that I can save my life?" And the king said, "There is a king who lives in a golden castle. He has a daughter with golden hair. I have long desired that maiden for my own. If you can bring me the daughter of the king, the princess with the golden hair, I shall spare your life, and you shall have the golden horse as a prize." So of course, the youngest prince was very glad for his life, but he had no idea where the princess was to be found. And he walked down the road, and you know what happens next. There was the fox, and the fox said, "You have a talent for getting yourself into mischief. But I have compassion for you, and also some affection, and I shall help you once again. I know where the golden palace is, and I shall take you there. Here, sit down upon my tail." And he did, and off they went with their hairs whistling in the wind. And when they came to the palace, the fox said, "Now, it's evening. You must wait an hour or so. But out of the palace will come the princess with the golden hair. She will go into the bathhouses to bathe. You must immediately rush in and kiss her. And as soon as you do, she will turn to you and she will say," the words that all of us have always longed for the girl to say, right? "I will go with you wherever you will take me." And so it happened just as the fox had said. And they waited until the dusk came on and the night came on. And then across the grass came, almost floating, this girl with the golden hair, with her white garments just wafting in the breeze. And she made her way into the bathhouse. And the fox poked the prince in the ribs. And the youngest prince, he rushed into the bathhouse and he grasped the girl with the golden hair and he gave her a kiss on the lips. And just as the fox had said, she turned to him and she said, "I will go with you wherever you will take me." And again, I forgot to tell you more of the fox's advice. He said, "You must bring her right out. You must bring her right out, and we will go back then to the king of the mountain to deliver her. Bring her right out. Do not let her go back to say farewell to her parents, or things shall go very badly with you." And so the princess said, "I shall go with you wherever you will take me. But first I must say goodbye to my parents." And the prince said, No, we must go now. And he locked his arm through hers and began to pull, but she began to plead, and the tears came down her face. And he said, No, we must go now. And she pleaded, she begged, and then she fell at his feet, and her tears fell upon his feet. And at last, he relented. No sooner had she approached her father's bed than her father sat bolt upright, as well as everyone in the castle sat bolt upright. And the soldiers were sent, and the boy was put in chains. And the king said, "Your life is done." And the boy said, "Is there no way I can save my life?" And the king thought for a moment, and he said, "There is a mountain that blocks my view. If you can move that mountain, then I will give you your life and my daughter as a reward. But it must be done within 8 days." So what would you do? What would you do? Of course, he set to work. He dug and he picked. And he worked away at that mountain as fast as he could. He barely slept. He worked and he worked and he worked. And the days passed. And on the 7th day he looked and he barely made any progress at all. And he collapsed upon the floor and he put his head in his hands. He said, "How did this happen? How did this happen? I was just looking for the golden bird. And then I needed to find the golden horse. And then I made a mistake and I needed to find the princess with the golden hair. And now I need to move the mountain. And if I don't move the mountain, I won't get the princess. And if I don't get the princess, I can't get the horse. And if I can't get the horse, I can't get the bird. And if I can't get the bird, I can't go back to my father. How did this happen? I'm lost. I'm lost. I'm lost." And there we shall leave the story for a moment. All right, Barry, it's your turn.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Garth for embodying the foolish young prince and forgetting to tell us various parts of the story until he had to. Anyways, so as I mentioned with Hari's story, how much time do we have for this part?
10 minutes.
Okay. Our work is not to analyze the story. but to take a few seconds, close your eyes if you like, go within and pay attention to the images that struck you, that grabbed you. And those, it may be just one image. That image is your entry into the deeper levels of the story, which connect with your own story. So who would like to speak to one of those, to an image that really grabbed you?
So the boy was collapsed on the ground with his face in his hands in utter despair when he heard a voice. And the voice said, "You do have a way of getting yourself into trouble. But I see you were grieving, and you were grieving. But do not despair, for I'm with you, and I will help you. And you don't have to do anything this time. Just rest. You've already done your best. Sleep and leave it to me." And the boy gratefully fell off to sleep. And when the sun came up in the morning and the sun rays came in the window, it struck his face and he wakened and opened his eyes. And right away, he'd been thinking for a whole week about the mountain. He looked out the window and there was no mountain. The mountain was gone. And the news filtered through the palace, and the king came and the boy pointed, and the king looked and he rubbed his eyes and he blinked his eyes and he rubbed his eyes again. And the king had no choice. He had to keep his good name. He gave the boy his life, and he gave the boy the princess with the golden hair as well. Oh, sorry. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's hard to keep track of. And so the boy, the youngest prince and the princess with the golden hair made their way away from the palace, journeying into their new life. And soon they came upon the fox.
Oh, God.
And the fox said, "You must take the princess to the king of the mountain castle." And the boy said, "But no!" Because the boy had already become quite attached to the princess with the golden hair. And the fox said, "No, wait, listen. You must take the princess to the king of the mountain castle. And there the people will stream out and there'll be great rejoicing, and the king will be thrilled, and he will bring the golden horse to you. And climb up upon the golden horse and join in the celebration and laugh and celebrate with them. And then, as a farewell, ride around and give your hand to each person in turn. And very last of all, extend your hand to the princess. But grasp her hand and pull her up onto the back of the horse and then gallop away as fast as you can." And the youngest prince said, "But what if they pursue us? What if they catch us?" And the fox said, No, the golden horse can run as fast as the wind. They will not capture you." And so the boy did just that. I could tell you the whole story, but it all turned out exactly as the fox said. And so they were racing away on the golden horse, when who should come up beside them, racing along but the fox, because the fox could run as fast as the wind too. And so as they ran along together, the horse galloping and the fox running beside, the fox was calling up his new instructions to the boy. When we get to the mountain castle, you must... Castle. No. When we get to the golden castle, you must take you will leave the princess with me and take the golden horse into the king, and the king will be so delighted that he will come out and give you the golden bird. He will be so happy and so delighted to have the golden horse that he won't be thinking clearly. And he will hand you the golden bird. And as soon as he hands you the golden bird, you must roar away on the horse and come back to me, and I will be keeping the golden princess. And so I could tell you the whole story, but it happened exactly as the fox said. And so when they came back, when the third prince came back riding the golden horse, and they came back and joined the fox with the golden princess, the princess came up and sat behind him. They were on their way back, and the youngest prince said, my friend, you have given me so much. You have helped me so much. What can I do for you? And the fox said, you must take me to the woods, and you must shoot me dead. And you must cut off my paws and my tail. And the boy said, no, I could never do such a thing. You've been so good to me. You've helped me so much. How could I possibly do that? And the fox said, well, if you will not do that, then I must go away. But before I go, I will give you 2 more pieces of advice. He said, as you return to your father, do not buy any gallows meat, and do not sit at the edge of water. And then he ran away into the forest. And the prince said, what a wonderful fellow. What a wonderful creature this fox is. But what strange ideas he has. Why would I ever buy gallows flesh? And when have I ever wanted to sit at the edge of water? And so he went on his way. And they weren't far now from where he had started. And they came to the village where the 2 inns stood. And there was a great throng of people and much noise. And the youngest prince asked, what's going on? And the people told him, there are 2 scoundrels who will be hung today. And the people have come to see justice be done. And then the youngest prince looked up at the gallows, and he saw that the 2 men that were there on the gallows with their hands tied and the hoods over their heads. No, they wouldn't have had hoods over their heads. He saw that they were his very own brothers. They had spent all of their money. They had committed dastardly deeds. And the people were eager to be rid of them. And the boy said, is there no way that I can save their lives? I can buy their lives. And the people laughed and said, why would you buy the lives of scoundrels such as these? But the boy went and he paid for them. And they all walked away. And as they went, they admired the golden horse. And they ogled the princess with the golden hair. And then the 2 older brothers said, we've walked enough. Let's rest for a bit. This is a quiet place to rest. And the boy sat down without even thinking of it on the edge of a well. And no sooner did he sat down in the well than the 2 brothers rushed forward and pushed him backwards, and he fell down, down, down into the well. And now they went home, the eldest son, the eldest prince, and the second prince. And they came into the castle, and they said, Father, we are back. We bring you not only the golden bird, but the golden horse and the princess with the golden hair. And there was great celebration. They were honored. There was a feast, and they were dressed in fine clothing, and the king rejoiced that his 2 sons had come home. But then the king began to notice, as the days went on, and the people noticed, that the bird didn't sing, the horse would not eat and grew thin, and the princess sat each day with her head in her hands and wept. The boy was in the well, but he had not died. There was no water in the well. He'd fallen on soft moss and mud. He was there for days trying to climb up unsuccessfully. And then down the well came the fox. He said, I will help you one last time. And he helped him up. Sit on my tail. Up they came. He said, but you are not out of danger yet. Your brothers, for fear that perhaps you had not died in the well, have set guards and scouts to look for you with orders to kill you on sight. They came upon an old man, an old beggar sitting on the side of the road, and they made a deal and exchanged clothing. And now they walked back to the castle, and the fox went away. And the boy went home dressed in the rags of the beggar, and he took work in the kitchen as just a scullery boy washing the dishes. But a great change came over the castle. The bird began to sing. The horse began to eat. The princess instead of weeping, she began to hum. And now she took courage, she took heart, and she went to the king, even though the elder brothers had warned her that they would kill her if she were to breathe a word of what happened. She took heart and she took courage, and she went to the king and she told them what had happened. And the two eldest brothers were put into the dungeon. And all the people came around. And the boy came out of the kitchen. And he took his hat off, and he took his ragged shirt off. And the king saw who he was. And the princess rushed to him and fell upon his neck and began to weep, this time with joy. She said, "This is my true husband. This is my true husband." And there was a great celebration and a marriage. And what could keep them now from being happy for the rest of their days? And they were indeed. And sometime later, who can say whether it was a few weeks or a few months or a few years, the youngest prince went back to the forest. And there he found his old friend, the fox. And he said, "I have a wonderful life. Is there anything I can do for you?" And the fox said, "I've already told you. You must shoot me dead. You must cut off my tail and cut off my feet." And the boy wept. He said, "How can I do such a thing? But I love you, and I will do what you ask. You have always told me true." And so he shot the fox, he cut off his feet and cut off its tail. And no sooner had that happened than up from the dismembered parts rose a handsome young man with goodness in his face. He said, "I am the brother of your wife, the princess with the golden hair. And you have released me from a spell that has kept me captive for many long years." The boy insisted, of course, that he come back to the castle. And when the old king died and the boy became king, who was his prime counselor but this young man who had been his friend for a long time, the fox? That's the story. Ooh. Wow. Yeah.